Hi there, fellow design architects. Had a great conversation with architect Stuart Peasley in the USA yesterday and wanted to share with you the idea of perfecting your skills in a certain area. And we compared surfing and architecture. Listen to this conversation we had. Super interesting. Look forward to sharing it with you. Keep on watching.
I had an interesting day yesterday. I went surfing for the fourth time this year, and I had not been surfing in about 10 years, I guess. So I had an opportunity to go. Some friends asked me, and it's like starting all over again, Jason. When you don't practice, you lose it.
Well, that's the human condition, right?
It is.
That's the human condition. Everyone thinks they're so good at something, and then they realize, they lost it,
Yep,
somewhere along.
yep. And I'm glad, you know, in a way, I'm glad to be doing it, but in another way, I'm sort of thinking, well, okay, so I get good again, but then once I get good again, you have to keep doing it, and it takes us an hour and a half one way to get to the beach. So if I were to calculate, and we'll do a calculus for all this, I'm like, what's this all worth? But it's good to get out. It's good to get away. There's value in that. It's tremendous exercise. You get into nature. So you come back and you're a little bit with a different perspective on things. You have a different perspective. So I think for a lot of us as architects, we tend to just get stuck in the treadmill
I love it.
and just keep cranking.
You're an architect, and you also a surfer, and you haven't been surfing for a long time because you've been trapped behind your PC drawing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's you get stuck in your little office like we all do, and then you go on a day trip to go surfing, and you realize that you're not as good as you used to be.
Well, let me equate that to what we're doing here, because coming on board every week, it's like going surfing. All right, in a esoteric way, because what it does is it gets us out of our routine, and it shows us things that we're not accustomed to, and we get to exchange ideas and thoughts, and there's a camaraderie there. So that energy and that experience leads us to hopefully higher levels, higher ground from which we can practice and grow from. And so really that's a major benefit to what I experienced with this group and what I hope to continue with. Um, but those are the byproducts. I guess the first product is being able to and draw productively and with with great returns and value. And so what that means. So all morning I've been trying to figure out this truss system for this residence, and it's fairly complicated. But I wasn't looking forward to it. But in an in the other way, it's like surfing in that I can enjoy navigating through the difficulties, which surfing is not easy. It is about. We had great waves yesterday, which don't come when you want them; they just come, and you got to go. And we got there, and it wasn't too bad, not too crowded. But by the time we were leaving, it was very crowded, and so it was really hard to get a wave. So, so navigation is a key element, a key component of what we do. And um,
Explain that more, navigation.
navigation means when we're confronted with a situation or a problem or different conditions on a job site, um, it's not out of the textbook. It may be not anything that we've ever learned before, but yet we represent ourselves as experts and we've got to be able to solve that problem. And how do we meet all of the requirements and do it creatively and come out on the other end with something that's of benefit? That's navigating the process. And so what this does for me anyway, I'm sure that it does for other people, is that it gives you more options to confront those problems and navigate through them.
Wow. That's an amazing insight.
Well, I think if it's not, I think it's just helpful to be able to have the perspective, to be able to, it is like catching a wave. When you're out with a group of people catching waves, you might think of it as relaxing and everybody's getting along and having fun, but it's actually quite competitive because you spend half an hour waiting for a set of waves to come in, and everybody has to position for that right place to catch it, to catch that wave. And then you have to deliver. Once you catch that wave, it's not easy to be able to, you really want to work that wave, and it's called shredding. You want to shred you've seen pictures, I'm sure, but it doesn't always just happen. You have to practice and you have to be in the right place. You have to be competitive. You have to know that nobody's just going to let you have that wave because they've spent their half an hour waiting and you've spent your half an hour waiting. So it's like, yeah, we all get along and usually it's fine, but it can be a little competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite an amazing insight. So if you could compare surfing to different aspects of architecture, it's really a wonderful insight, because you have different aspects of architecture. First, you have schematic design, and then you have design development of that schematic design. And then you have the back and forth with the clients until you get that schematic design the way that it's needed to lock in. And then each of those iterations that we may be doing needs to be accompanied with the ideas attached using perspective. So there's this whole process, including just before perspective, I guess, the modeling of the design. So there are all these different aspects of catching the wave.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like,
then you've got to you've got to ride the wave, without wiping out. And if you do wipe out, you have to do it gracefully and get back up and do it again. But that's where the skills and practice come in, and our visual capabilities to be able to, it really comes down to navigation, doesn't it?
yeah, absolutely. You could compare the wave to a client, maybe.
Yeah.
And driving out to the wave in your car to get to the beach, sort of like finding the client.
Yeah. Interesting. It's I don't know. I mean, the guys that I'm going with, they go all winter, and they have good wetsuits for that. But I'm going to try. I'm going to give it a try, just for the heck of it, because it is rewarding to have that experience.
Hmm.
And
I love the comparison. I love the analogy. I think it's very appropriate. You know, I was having a conversation with someone the other day about something similar. I was saying it's like learning to play golf, probably another. And so many architects are good at so many processes because that's what's sort of standardized in the industry. They're good. Most architects are good at sorting the plan out, refining it. They understand the process of refinement. But when it comes to the 3D process, without any artificial intelligence, they're clueless. And it's so surprising because you would think that architects would all be good at perspective. And I'm not saying it's an essential component, but it should be an essential component because that's what the client latches onto the most, is the 3D perspective, the manifestation of the idea. And then you log on to social media and you take a look at all the images that people are posting of their work, and they're just so inadequate in conveying the idea. They leave out so many psychological triggers. They leave out the ability to connect with the client. They create sterile images that are looking really good, but they're sterile. They don't have human beings in, you know, and they just have no understanding of how to communicate the
so
idea.
therefore, they don't realize the potential. You know, they're missing, you know, so much more that could be achieved with that awareness. And so that's the real value to be able to convey. You know, it's just like marketing. What is it that you can provide that people want? And I think that's, you know, we're messengers, and we have to get that message out, that we have to deliver it in such a manner that's convincing.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that the message gets out there, but it's kind of empty.
It's like half-baked.
Yeah.
It's a half-baked message most of the time. And
that's a good point.
Yeah. It's such a pity, though, because, I mean, when you take a look at all the great architects out there, they all had the ability to communicate their vision in such powerful ways. And yet, because sometimes it's a bit hard for people to accomplish and know how to do it themselves, that they really don't focus on it and use it in any whatsoever way to their advantage. So it's such a pity. Look, I'm not saying it's easy to find architectural clients, right?
No.
Finding an architectural client is in itself, that's a business. That's a business in itself. It's a business in itself. But once you've got that client, then you've got to ride the wave with them.
Yeah.
And you've got to tick all the boxes. You've got to put your feet on the surfboard in a certain way. You've got to angle yourself in a certain way. You know, you've got to have the right insulation, you know, around your body.
Yeah.
And you need so many things to ride that wave, you know. You can't leave the wetsuit off in winter.
No. It won't last long.
No, you'll freeze to death.
Yeah. But it's an interesting analogy, I think, because it's excitement too. It's just like, that's that's one of the reasons why we do this. You know, it's like, hey, so I'm playing around with this truss system this morning, and I realized, oh, there's holes, there's gaps, there's discrepancies, and you know, rather than be annoyed about it, I'm sort of like, oh, this is cool. All right, I didn't realize that. Figure out a way to reconcile those problems and make it work, and so it doesn't come back to be a big problem later. You know.
Yeah, yeah. To work that piece of the puzzle out,
Yeah. Yeah.
to resolve that piece of the puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, amazing, amazing. I love that analogy, and hopefully I'm going to send that out to other architects just so they can understand the analogy, and maybe they'll resonate with it. And if you are receiving this message after we've recorded it, I just hope you can comment on it and tell us how you feel about your process and how you're riding the wave with regards to your design process, your presentation process in the architectural realm, in the studio. And it would be a fantastic to understand how you feel about your process, and do you think you're fulfilling the required material to impress your clients?